All right, so I'd like to introduce our next session, which is dedicated entirely to our expanding network of clinics. Eileen did a good job of introducing the clinics, and on the slide that she had, you'll notice that there was the number 3 on there for 3 clinics, which probably makes you wonder why we have more than 3 people up here, and that's because we are expanding our network of clinics. And we have 3 already approved clinics and 1 that is nearing completion and development clinic that's here to talk today. And each one will provide a little bit of a presentation regarding their clinics and what you could expect if you choose to access their services. Following their speaking, I'll come back up and we'll have questions. We've got 2 microphones in the aisles, and you would be more than welcome to come up and ask questions. We do request that if you do choose to ask a question, that you ask 1 question to let other people ask further questions. One other thing of note is that please do not ask questions specific to the care of your individual with Angelman syndrome. They're not here to provide any sort of medical advice. They're here to discuss their clinics, and so they can't render an opinion on specific treatment of your child at this time. So without further ado, we will start with Dr. Ralitza Gavroliva, who is the clinic director at Mayo.
So I will start with saying that I'm grateful to be here because I would like to hear your thoughts and your expectations for the clinics. And for those who decide to come to our clinic, we'll continue those conversations. But as you all know, we would like to work together in order to continually improve the care of your children as well as of the families. So we have a limited amount of time to spend together today. And what I have done, I have prepared 3 to 4 slides just to show you how our clinic works, a little bit of a background, and then the rest of the time we'll open it up to questions and discussion. So just to give you an overview, these are the 3 established clinics on your right-hand side. We're currently working on an opening of 4th in California. Our clinic is the youngest of the established clinics. There was an opening in November of 2015 together with the Angelman Syndrome Foundation, kind of an opening ceremony, and then the clinics itself started in the spring of 2016. So we're a little over a year old, but of course we had our own Angelman syndrome patients. This request from the Angelman Syndrome Foundation only organized the care around Angelman syndrome. And the idea was that these clinics should be able to care for both adults and children with Angelman syndrome because we wanted to learn more about the natural history of the disease, which means we may not have enough information about what happens when they become adults. Some symptoms may reduce over time, some symptoms may worsen over time, and we don't have a good background natural history study for that. So we are hoping to collect that type of information. We also realize that we need to be set up as a network for clinical trials or to try new treatments, and then some of those are about to start, which we're very excited about. And then, of course, we work in close collaboration with the Angelman Syndrome Foundation and between the clinics. So this is just our group at Mayo. These are both adult and pediatric providers from genetics, neurology, mainly epilepsy, from sleep, physical medicine, speech, development, orthopedics, and social work, as well as dietitians. We have also GI providers that I have not included, but it gives you the idea of the number of people that would like to dedicate part of their career to Angelman syndrome. And this is the last slide. This will tell you a little bit about the flow of the patients when they come to our clinic. The home of the clinic is in the Department of Genetics because we care for both pediatric and adult patients. And before you come, we send you a questionnaire, a brief questionnaire over the email. The purpose of the questionnaire is to understand what are the top problems that we need to address during your visit. And if you choose all services, we also tell you that that will take a long time for the appointments to be complete. So you first start in genetics, and we review all the problems that are current for your child. And then you go down to the appropriate subspecialties. And at the end of the visit, you come back to genetics so we can summarize all the recommendations, and we generate one letter with a brief summary that we send to you, and we also send to your local providers. If we feel like we need to see you again until we handle a specific problem, then we'll tell you we would like to see you back in 3 months or 6 months in these certain areas because we still need to work on that until we feel that everything is more stable, and then you can go back to local providers. And of course, there's an opportunity for every year visits after that. So with that, I would like to thank you and open it up to any questions or discussion or thoughts that you may have. And I can't see very well. I'm really blinded by the...
Ralitza, we'll save questions for the end.
Oh, for the end?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think just ask for anybody.
So any comments at this time, at least? Because I'll be leaving right after this. I have to go to the airport.
So if there are any questions specific to Mayo Clinic.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, if there's anything specific to Mayo Clinic, I'll be able to answer. There's a question over there that I can see.
Hi, I'm Sue Scheibel from St. Louis. So if we were to come to the clinic, set up an appointment for that kind of assessment, how does that work as far as our insurance? And if we have a neurologist in St. Louis, like at Children's Hospital, and we come to the clinic, is that a difficult balance with working insurance to pay for those types of services? Just because we've...
So we do have a business office who usually screens insurance, and they tell you if you have to pay out of pocket for any of the services.
Because when you go to any of the clinics, then do you work in tandem with your local neurologists, or is that how that would work? It's like we'd go for a visit there, and then we'd kind of collaborate?
Yeah, so if you complete the evaluation by our neurologist, let's say, for epilepsy or sleep, then those recommendations will go back. We actually talk at the time of the last visit, how do we handle it from there? Do you need to come back again? Do you need to just go back and fulfill the recommendations with the local neurologist? So we will send that information. We'll talk about it with you, and we'll send this information also to you again and to the neurologist, and the neurologist will see them, and if they feel that these are appropriate, then they'll work with you on fulfilling those.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. One more question? Actually, one way to do that, and we discussed that last night actually at our clinic meeting, is if we feel that this is a highly specialized condition and we feel that your child may benefit from the specialized multidisciplinary care that we can offer you. And we are happy to provide letters to your insurance and tell them that it's not just simple epilepsy that is easy to treat, for example. So we are certainly happy to do that and to prove to your insurance that you actually may benefit from this kind of care. Okay, thank you for being here.
Just a moment, could I have one more, please? Are you finished taking questions, or could I ask one?
Yes, because I will leave right after that. I apologize for
okay.
that. I have to catch a plane.
Okay, I'm from Georgia, and I caught just a little of what you said about studies, about what happens as they grow older. My angel is 45, and I can tell you a lot happens. Many changes as they become adults and approach middle age. I'm interested in where would I find out more about the studies, because I have a lot to offer, but I also have many questions about this aging process.
So the questions that you have, the specific questions that you have about your child could be discussed at any of the clinics. Mm-hmm. This was another topic of discussion between the clinics yesterday.
Okay.
How do we structure the natural history study? What questions do we need to have there? And of course, you as parents and caregivers can certainly help us with that. Individually we'll discuss what we know, and typically what we don't know, we will tell you that as well. But that's one of the purposes of us creating those clinics and specializing in Angelman syndrome, is to learn more about what happens in the future. We do know some. There are natural history studies. We do know some symptoms get better, some may get worse, but we may not know all of it.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Oh, one more.
I'm sorry, I know you have to leave. I have two quick questions. One is, how many patients have you treated so far since the clinic opened, and what is the current wait list or wait time to get an appointment?
So since we started, we were seeing once a month 2 kids with Angelman syndrome, and alternating with once a month 1 adult to start and see how things work. Because of the waiting list, we tried to double that recently. We've seen, I'm not sure about the number, but over the past year, we've seen about 30 or so patients already. The waiting list, I'm not sure how many patients are on the waiting list. But as I said, we are now trying to, because we saw that things seem to be working. That is why we had limited the number at the beginning, and then now we've doubled it. So we will try to accommodate people faster.
Thank you. I think there was one other question. I don't know if this person has their...
So really quickly also, from your experience, how many days does family have to spend at Mayo Clinic once they come there for a visit, and does it usually include any inpatient stay, like for sleep study and stuff?
So what we try to tell the families, and there's a coordinator that actually talks to the families in addition to the questionnaire, is we try to tell them, if you limit to your top 3 priorities, let's say seizures, sleep is the worst, and GI, then your stay will be shorter. But if you want all the services, then your stay will be the entire week, most likely, because we do EEGs and we do sleep studies and EEG monitorings and some GI testing and physical medicine assessments and kind of a lot. So our experience, we realize that it's difficult for the families to spend so many days, and that is why we want to address the priority. But most of the families, this is the experience, have chosen everything. Okay. So most families so far have stayed, especially the children. The adults, more often they have specific issues that they would like addressed, a couple of issues or 3. But for the children, our experience is most parents want all the services to evaluate the child fully and provide those recommendations back to the local providers.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Okay, we'll start on, let's say, this side of the table now. Dr. Wheeler from the University of North Carolina. What we'll do is we'll do the other 3 presentations, and then we'll take the rest of the questions at the end.
Thank you. I'm Ann Wheeler. Margaret Deramus is actually going to walk us through the clinic. We're the co-directors of the clinic. Sorry. I'm Ann Wheeler. Margaret Deramus and I are co-directors of the UNC clinic, and she's going to give a little information about what we do at UNC.
There it goes. Thank you. I'm Margaret Deramus. I'm the speech-language pathologist on the clinical team at UNC that started in 2012. Although Dr. Thibert was seeing a lot of folks with Angelman syndrome at that point, we were the first to start this interdisciplinary clinic. We started with funds by the ASF. And so, let's see. So our clinic model, we have at our center, the Carolina Institute for Developmental Disabilities at UNC, we have a lot of different interdisciplinary clinics. So we were already set up to see families in one day and have a whole bunch of disciplines see them and do consultations. We have gotten most of our referrals from the Angelman Syndrome Foundation, and a lot of families have just self-referred. We also have, our UNC genetics clinic, so when kids have diagnoses there, they will send them to our clinic. Our website's here. I also have it at the last page. Whoops. So our comprehensive clinic is one day, and it includes genetic counseling, a neurological consultation. If needed, you can see our psychiatrist. A lot of times he doesn't see our younger kids because they're not in need of psychiatric medicine or things like that. Ann Wheeler is our psychologist, and I'm the speech-language pathologist. We have a physical therapist, a social worker who does a needs assessment with the family and talks about different resources. And unfortunately, we lost our occupational therapist a year ago. Sorry for the feedback. And we have not been able to replace her. When you come to our clinic, it's a full day. It's exhausting. We start the day out with developmental testing, and the other psychologists, we have a couple in the room, and I work together to do what we call an arena-style assessment. We find that that's helpful in keeping a child's attention. So we'll take turns. I'll be doing some language assessment, and they'll be doing some of the cognitive assessment and trying to keep a child's attention with our materials. We also, our physical therapist does the gross motor assessment, and we look at functional living skills through our adaptive behavior assessment. But there's lots of parent interviewing. I go through some AAC type assessments, just consultation with whatever system. If a family comes in with a system, I'll talk about ways to use it, or I'll offer some different suggestions of things to try at home or things to explore when they go home. We also, if there's behaviors that are involved that need to see the psychiatrist, that he will be interviewing regarding that and sleep. Our neurologist is also a geneticist and also a sleep specialist, so that's very helpful too. And you go away with lots of recommendations. We have a huge report that comes after a few weeks probably too much information, but we want to give you whatever we can. And always we are available for consultation after the clinic. People are welcome to come back. Like I said, that's pretty much what we do. And we're always available by phone too. And we talk to your speech language pathologist at home, or our neurologist is happy to speak to your local neurologist and consult in that way as well. So we've been open the longest in some ways. And we've seen 95 people since then, and we've had some returns, mostly for communication or behaviors. A couple have come in for a full evaluation with the entire team. And we've seen kids, or babies to adults in their 30s, and we're happy to see individuals who are a lot older too. And we've had a lot of families come from out of the country too, so everybody's welcome to come. Our primary referral concerns have been communication, seizures, sleep management, behavior, and some anxiety as well. And one of the great places, one of the great things about UNC is that we have it's a training center, and we have a lot of trainees who are learning, and they're going to be going out into the, across the country, wherever they go next, and they'll have Angelman experience, and I think that's really important. I also think it's really great because we have been Philpott's lab with the cellular, science and the mouse, that we can go over and look at that and have our trainees go there, but he also has his trainees coming to us and seeing what we're doing, and so they get to, those basic scientists who sit here and tell you all about what they're doing in the lab are able to come and see families and meet families and see how we assess in real life. So I think that's pretty much it. That's our website, and you're welcome to contact me if you're interested in coming to the clinic. We do not have a huge wait list. We are scheduled through September, and that's about it. We'll wait and take questions after.
So next is Dr. Ron Thibert, and he'll talk about his clinic.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thanks. In slideshow mode? Great. So my slides aren't quite as impressive as the other two, but that's okay. I'll just talk more. That's Mass General for those of you that haven't been to Boston. And kind of as Margaret said, we first got our Angelman Syndrome Foundation funding in 2012, about a year after they did. But we started seeing kids in the clinic in 2008, and since we were the only ones doing that at the time, there was a lot of trial and error in terms of what worked, what didn't work, how to do it. We initially it was mostly a seizure clinic. That's my specialty. I'm a pediatric epilepsy specialist. And but then it became clear pretty quickly that you don't treat seizures very well if you don't treat the sleep and don't treat the reflux and don't treat the anxiety. And so from there we kind of expanded and added sleep specialists, psychiatrists, GI doctors, and things kind of went from there. We now have our little group at Mass General, and we also have people now at the Lurie Center for Autism, which is Mass General's Autism Center. It's not just for autism, it's for any kind of developmental issues, a lot of neurogenetic syndrome experience there, so it's been a great resource. To date, we've actually seen 240 people, kids and adults, age range from 9 months to 45 years, and kind of the way it works is that we can do things a number of ways. We can either do kind of a one-time consult and kind of send people back to their doctors with kind of recommendations and letters. We can see families and then just kind of keep in touch with their local doctors if they're interested in that. And if people can see us at least yearly, we can actually treat them. We can treat the seizures, the sleep, the behavior stuff. And we do that pretty frequently. If we can see people yearly, we can prescribe medicines, and we can do video visits in between, so like a televisit, which is actually doesn't even go through insurance, which is great. Let's see. So the kind of the main specialties that we have, so we have neurology, epilepsy, dietary therapy for epilepsy. We actually have we've put a lot of kids with Angelman syndrome on diet therapy for their seizures, which has been really great. GI nutrition has been probably now the second most popular specialty that people will see. Psychiatry is becoming a bigger and bigger thing, especially as we see more and more adults, which are now about a quarter to a third of our whole clinic, I think. Neuropsychology, sleep medicine for the kids that can't sleep even after neurology and psychiatry take a crack at it. Genetic consults if needed. Typically, the diagnosis is pretty clear when we see people, so we don't really need the genetic piece as much. We'll do consults to orthopedics and physiatry or ophthalmology as needed, and PT speech or OT also kind of as needed. That kind of brings up a nice kind of contrast between, especially our clinic and in North Carolina. We're more of we are a hospital-based clinic versus a kind of an outpatient clinic. And both clinics have different strengths, and I think as time goes on, each clinic will do one thing kind of better than every other clinic, and that's kind of how things are evolving, which is great. The way our clinic is, like I said, it started off as a seizure clinic that then kind of moved on to GI, psychiatry, and all that. So we don't have specific days, kind of like Ralitza was talking about and that Margaret was talking about. We just, because we're really focused on the seizures, we try to just kind of see as many people as possible, get people in. So in a given week, if I don't see 7 or 8 kids with Angelman syndrome in that week, it's kind of a slow week. Some weeks I've seen 10 or 12. So we really have gotten a pretty high volume. So because of that, we can't really take a day and do everything. So if we plan months and months ahead, we can actually kind of set all that up in a short time. But typically it's the big medical specialties that kids will need. And what we try to do is talk to people ahead of time and find out which doctors are the ones that need to be seen. So if it's really just a seizure question, you want to be seen quick, we can usually do that quickly because it's just one appointment. If it's going to be psychiatry, GI, and me, it might take a little bit longer to get that. Over the next year, our goal is to kind of increase our behavioral services, because that's become a bigger and bigger issue, especially as we see older and older folks. And also just really trying to coordinate the days better so that right now we can usually do all of that stuff within like a 3-day period, but now we're trying to get it to where we can do it in 1 day or at the most 2. So those are kind of the goals moving forward. As the volume's risen, it's been harder, but now that we are kind of a little more organized about it, we can we're shooting for that. So I think that's it. That's our team on the wall there. Tomorrow there will be a talk by me. There'll be a talk by Dr. Curie. There'll be a talk by Heidi, and there'll be there's a fourth one. There's another one. I'm missing something. Seizure. And there's also going to be Anna Larson, who's a resident at Mass General, but has done a ton of research with us before her residency. She'll be doing a talk on adult issues. So you'll meet several of these people tomorrow. I think that's it for us. I told you my slides were short. Thanks.
So the gentleman now standing behind me is Dr. Nespeca, and for those of you that live on this side of our country, you'll be happy to hear that he's from San Diego, and this clinic is hopefully soon to open. Where, like I said in the introduction, our goal is to have a nationwide network of clinics, and we're very happy to have him here to talk about what his clinic days will hopefully look like.
Hi, my name is Mark Nespeca. I'm from San Diego, and I'm embarrassed that we've been working on this for 22 months now, and we still haven't fully launched. And Eileen and Justin know the details about that. But just last week, we finalized what I think is an essential service for our clinic, and that's with behavioral medicine and so forth, to really offer clinical services to patients with Angelman syndrome. So we are the almost Angelman clinic without walls. And the reason I say without walls is that I may be wrong, but it's my perception that at Mayo, at MGH, and at North Carolina, the services are all pretty much within the same square block. So for us to provide adult services, we needed to work with two neurologists I know at UCSD who have agreed to provide neurology, epilepsy specialty services to adult patients. The rest of the services are through the Rady Children's Hospital San Diego clinics, and that includes genetics, Dr. Lynn Bird, who some of you may know, myself in neurology and epilepsy, Dr. Rebecca Cherry in gastroenterology, and the remainder of individuals who are up there from various other specialties. So I don't have pictures of these people, but I guarantee you all of them have 2 eyes, 1 nose, 1 mouth, and hopefully ears that work well to listen to your concerns. So the planned process for this clinic will be the parent or family will contact our administrative staff person named Marlene, who will define what type of providers you would like to see during the visit. Then information regarding your insurance will be obtained. Our hospital will try to obtain authorization for those visits. After the authorization has been obtained, then appointments are booked. For the adult patients, we will work with the staff at UCSD to try to book patients with adult neurologists. There just are not many 40-year-olds that are seen in Children's Hospital. So we hope to have two times a month where there will be appointments booked between Monday and Tuesday for the various specialties. Close in one building complex is neurology, genetics, orthopedics, gastroenterology, and nutrition. 1 mile away is where the speech therapists and behavioral assessment folks are. The UCSD clinic is about 9 miles away from where Children's Hospital is. So when you come, you will need to have transportation or a good Lyft or Uber account. So every provider, when you're seen, will provide an after-visit summary. We work with an electronic medical record called EPIC, which is quite prevalent in the country. So does UCSD, and we are not allowed to finish a visit until we have composed an after-visit summary, printed it out, and given it to the person at the end of that visit. He likes that idea. And the same thing is true at UCSD. We will encourage families to sign up for a service called MyChart, which if you have internet access, you just sign on to this, and then you will be able to look at notes. You will be able to communicate with the providers that saw you online without having to deal with, at least in neurology, our tremendously cumbersome phone tree. And then a summary of all the visits and recommendations will be composed within a week of your visit and sent to you and to your primary care physician. So also on Monday evening, I plan to have an informal pizza gathering for the people that have come for that Monday and Tuesday, where I've had many volunteers of parents of kids with Angelman syndrome or young adults with Angelman syndrome who live in San Diego, who have been a very supportive group of parents over the years, and just have discussions about various topics that attendees at the clinic those 2 days wish to have. Our primary goal with this clinic is to provide sustainable clinical consultation and direct care services beyond the time of this seed grant being provided. One of the limitations that we have in San Diego, and I'm sure this is true of other locales, is that it's very difficult for us to get publicly funded payers to pay for any kind of developmental or mental health services outside of the school system or a network, at least in California, what are called regional centers for developmental disabilities. So I wish that was not the case, but it is, and so there will also be an option to do a payment method outside of your health plan if you wish to do that. So our Almost Clinic will hopefully get approved by the ASF and start up in the fall. So thank you very much.
So if there are any further questions, people are welcome to come to the microphones to ask. And while I'm giving people a moment to come up, one of the nice parts about this conference is we have an ability to speak with each other as family members of individuals with AS. And you start that conversation at a much different place than with people who have no conceptualization of what Angelman syndrome is. And these clinics are designed to be the exact same way. Many of you have probably accessed medical cares and had to do a lot of education with that physician or allied health provider about what Angelman syndrome is. And that won't be the case with these clinics. It's people who have seen individuals with Angelman syndrome. They know the disease process, but they're humble. You just heard Dr. Nespeca say, but hopefully we have 2 years where we can listen to you because each of our loved ones with Angelman syndrome are unique. So hopefully this network of clinics is going to be a truly tremendous benefit to all of us within the community. So with that, we'll have our first question.
Thank you for that information. My question is about behavior intervention. It applies to all the clinics. I want to know if, out of all the patients, if the behavior intervention was covered by their respective insurance companies, and if they were covered, how did you go about it? Because from our state, behavior intervention is not covered. So my son has been receiving behavior intervention since he's 4 years old, but we pay out of pocket for it, and it's not covered by insurance in Nevada. It is only covered if there is a diagnosis of autism. So because he doesn't have autism, it's not covered in Angelman. So the follow-up question is, since we know that behavior intervention works for Angelman, what can we do as a community of Angelman syndrome to let the insurance know, or to fight, or to lobby, or how can we get this across the insurance companies to get them approve this intervention, because we know that our angels need this. And
so that's a very complicated question and solution, because you're getting into health policy. But what I can tell you is that at our discussion last night, at our clinic discussion, we're talking about creating things like consensus statements that you would be able to utilize, hopefully, to go to your insurance company to advocate for that, and we can do that at a high level as well. But when we get into matters of health policy and insurers paying, that usually follows after CMS guidelines and things like that, that we're talking about national advocacy, which is a very complicated matter, but it's something that we're in tune with and we're working on. So, next question over here.
My first question was, is it covered?
That's
you provide insurance.
That's dependent on your insurance company, and unfortunately, because we don't know them all.
No, from your clinics, from the 5 clinics, because you provide behavior intervention. So I just want to know if out of the 5 clinics, has any, because you do see them for behavior intervention, did their insurance companies pay for it? Is it state to state? That's all I want to know.
It's actually insurance company to insurance company, state to state and insurance company to insurance company. So it's going to depend on each case, which is why they all have social workers and care managers that work at their clinics to help you work that kind of thing out. But it's completely unique to each individual and both where they live and what kind of insurance they have.
I'm the mother. Thank you all, too, for your work. my son is 30, and so like most adults, they're on public aid or the lucky ones on Medicare. So I was wondering if any of the clients that you've seen, have you been reimbursed by Medicaid from any of the states?
So,
Great, thanks. That's another kind of tricky question. And I can speak for Massachusetts residents that they are. In-state, we've had no problem with it. Out of state, it's been kind of hit and miss. Sometimes we can write letters, and some states the insurances will cover it, but it's tougher with adults because the way the healthcare is that the rules kind of change, which is not a good thing. And so the Medicares aren't always as kind of flexible as the Medicaids, but it does go state to state, and for our local families, we've never had a problem with it. And we have definitely had some out-of-state people get reimbursed.
Okay,
but it's
thank
not
you.
100%, but
Okay, it's promising.
yeah.
Thank you.
Right.
In North Carolina, at UNC, we take Medicaid, Medicare within state, and then also the bordering states of North Carolina.
Anymore? Yes, it is. Hi. Well, I'm from California, so I'm really excited to hear about the whole San Diego clinic. I'm way up north beyond San Francisco, but willing to travel. I was a little confused. You mentioned the regional center system, because I do know that my daughter's 30, and if Medicare or Medi-Cal doesn't cover it, that I can go through the self-determination program and actually help get funding through the regional center, Redwood Coast Regional. So you mentioned something about regional center, and I'm a little confused. I didn't hear it all.
Oh, thanks. So I can speak mostly to our regional center for developmental disabilities in San Diego and in the Inland Valley region. So they will fund developmental services, mostly behavioral therapy for challenging behaviors in developmentally disabled individuals, but their ability to do that is utterly contingent upon their budget from the state for a given year. So, and it's also based upon, I think many times they have to find documentation that a health plan will not cover it, okay? They know ipso facto that Medi-Cal will not, okay? But if you have a private health plan, they want some sort of letter of denial before they will do that.
Yes, the regional center is the payer of last resort.
Yes.
Yes, cool, but very good. How do we find out when you're going to be up and running? Do you have a booth out here so that we can like sign up?
I don't have a booth, but Justin and Eileen, when we do get up and running, will there be an announcement on?
yes.
Yeah.
So you've probably noticed each time a clinic opens, there's social media, public relations material that's put out, and so you'll hear about it when this officially opens. All of you being here are kind of on the cutting edge of this. Obviously, the clinic's not open, but because it's about this close, we did want to allow Dr. Nespeca to talk about his clinic, but you will be hearing about this officially, hopefully, very soon.
Thank you. Thank you for doing it in California. Looking forward to it.
So we probably have time for one more question, and then the rest of us will be around. If you happen to see us, you're more than welcome to ask your questions of us. After this question, as a reminder, just as Eileen said in the opening, there's going to be the Just For sessions. Those will be in an alternate room, and then following those, we'll be back here to do the research discussion and everything else this evening. So after those, please come back here for those. And the last question.
Okay, I'm from California, Lisa Walker. My angel is 11 years old. And for California question, what can we do as a mom before when the California clinic open? What can we do to prepare for that visit?
The main thing that I would advise is to think about what kind of services you would like to get, okay?
Okay.
And if there's a specific thing you want to have addressed, I think it would be a real challenge, like Ralitza mentioned early on, for us to accommodate people that wanted to see every single specialty during that time, just due to physician, other responsibilities and so forth.
Okay.
But I would hope that the top 3 priorities of an individual's visit would be able to be met within those, for Monday and Tuesday of whatever given week one came to the clinic.
So then I live in Central California, so for the insurance, the Ready Clinic, Texas Medi-Cal, and the HMO.
So all you would need to do is say that you're interested and provide your information. And our staff will get authorization for that visit.
Okay.
If they cannot get authorization, you will be offered the opportunity to pay cash for the visit.
Okay. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you everyone for coming, and we hope to see all of you in one of our clinics soon.